In August and September this year, members of the Bristol Active City Network were invited to take part in a series of workshops that had two aims. The first was to contribute to the completion of a survey for Sport England and the National Evaluation and Learning Partnership. This was called the Systems Maturity Matrix. This had 9 conditions for change, and the network was asked to consider where Bristol was in relation to a series of sub-questions for each condition. These results are reported elsewhere. The second and possibly equally important aim of the workshops was for members of the Bristol Active City Network to have an opportunity to learn and develop insight about physical activity and related inequalities across Bristol, and to gain understanding and build relationships. Over 40 members of the network participated. 2 of the workshops were online and 2 were in person. This film provides reflections from some of those taking part about how they believe the process was beneficial.
So I'm Pip. I'm a locality development manager for the South Bristol Locality Partnership. So I work with various different partners across health, social care, local authority and the VCSE sector. And today we've been coming together, I guess in the nature of forming a Bristol City active network. And so today has just been about getting to know other people and their roles and how everybody kind of connects and joins up and looking at opportunities.
My name's Ruth Glanville. I work for Westport. We are a physical activity charity and we fulfil the role of the active partnership for the West of England, covering Bristol, Bath and North East Somerset, South Gloucestershire and North Somerset. My role is a project manager, and I work with communities that we support to understand how they're accessing people within their communities who maybe will benefit from using physical activity and movement. So this morning we've been looking at co-production and community-led initiatives, and we've been focusing on South Bristol because the partners that are in our group have a bit more of a focus in that area. So it seems a bit easier to talk about real life examples and things that have happened historically, how some of those partners have been to being in those areas and working in those areas, and what they've learned about their communities where they're based.
I'm Zoe Banks-Gross. I work for Sustrans. I'm the Head of Partnerships and Public Affairs for England South. So today we've been talking about physical activity in Bristol, and we've been talking about the conditions for change, what things are like currently, change that's happening and why it's happening in some places in Bristol and why it's not happening. So we've been having really useful conversations about the different communities that we have in the city, the different types of things that are prohibiting people from being active. Again, today has been great to sort of pick up some of those threads and reconnect with different people and different organisations to discuss these things and hopefully find ways that we can make the city healthier and more active.
Hi, I'm Sarah Mortiboys. I'm the Chief Exec of Bristol Sport Foundation, which works out of Ashton Gate. What we've been doing today is really beginning to understand how we begin to work in place and what that means to the communities in which we want to support, help and serve. And I think one of the biggest challenges we've got with that is understanding the complexities of it. This is a complex way of working, and therefore getting really into the root of what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and therefore looking at the best possible outcomes that we can achieve collaboratively.
Hi, my name is Darren. I work with Bristol City Council Active Travel Team. We focus on transport, behaviour change, and then how we get more people sort of moving everyday life, primarily walking and cycling. We've just been looking at sort of different aspects of sort of community and building, and then how those things are currently embedded within our organisation and what is sort of needed. So we've just been talking individually as organisations about different ones of the themes, so that collaboration and volunteers, what we're currently doing around those things, and then maybe what's needed in terms of making sure it's embedded in everything that we do as organisations.
So I'm Dan White, the Chief Executive Officer at the Robbins Foundation. So we're Bristol City Football Club's official charity, working across health, education and youth engagement. We've been involved in the Bristol Active City Network for a little while now, helping support the overall network, coming together as a city to help improve the lives of people, get them more physically active and engaged in physical activity, whether that be sport or whether that be just being more physically active in terms of walking more.
Okay. So hi, my name's Lorraine Harris and I work for the Activity Alliance. The Activity Alliance are a national charity, a bit like Sport England, and their mission is to change attitudes for disabled people in sport and physical activity and ensure fairness. So we know that nearly half of disabled people want to be more active, and we also know that only 10% of disabled people actually have an opportunity to influence how they would like to be active. So my role as a strategic partnership advisor is to work on a national level, bringing some of that national insight and data down to local levels, to form strategic partnerships with different organisations, and to embed and challenge fairness for disabled people. So my role here today, or what I'm doing here today, not my role, is just to really gain some understanding of some of the community groups, some of the organisations that are working here in Bristol, and to be able to offer some of my insight around not just disabled people, but kind of the intersectionality element of how approaching things in a different way and collaboration can bring that change. So.
I guess so far we've been focusing on community-led action, and so I guess just understanding all the various different levels at which that can happen and the different parameters around it and things that enable it to happen in a better way.
It's just great to hear actually what's happening in different organisations and how people are tackling things, because I think we're all going about things slightly differently, but we've all got the same things in mind around addressing health inequalities, for example, and also finding out, how going forward we can collaborate in the future to share whether it's data or practices to benefit each other.
And that involves some complicated conversations and questioning and really reflecting on our own practice as individual organisations, but actually how we collectively contribute to the whole city.
There hasn't been enough joined up sort of thinking within the sort of wider ecosystem. So we're still facing some of the same problems that we would have done 10 years ago. I think it's just really nice actually seeing that actually as groups we look at things sort of similarly and see some of the same problems and shortfalls. So it's really now about how we overcome those things together.
I've learned some really good stuff that's actually happening in Bristol that I was unaware of. Some great organisations that can show some really good examples of developing trust and partnerships within communities over the course of 20 odd years, not being afraid to do things differently. The trust in the communities to be able to do things, but actually it shows how there is a huge barrier towards some of the stuff that we ask for, like on that national level, to how that then translates to hearing the voice and acting on the needs of the communities that they're working with. And I'm aware that things are changing within that kind of sphere, but I think that it's looking at the long-term solutions and not the short-term fixes, and I think everybody around the table is also very, very aware of that, but it's how do you implement that, how do you make those changes, how do we do that at a national level as well and use our influence to do that, so bringing their voices to some of the things, some of the tables that we're at.
It's great that now we are making progress as a collective leadership to actually, coordinate more, share best practice, and actually look at the future and what that means for the city, in particular the areas of deprivation where the inequalities are greater, and really focusing in on specific places which need more intervention, whether that be physical built environment, whether that be open spaces, whether that be transport, whether that be various different things, and today we specifically focused on some of those in our group, and hopefully it will start to foster more more development moving forward and really make an impact.
Yeah, so we've been talking about the difference in how opportunities or things that are being produced land in certain areas, and actually we're having a real acknowledgement that how things should be co-produced and how things should take time to land in certain areas often don't happen because of timescales in systems, maybe some kind of frictions within systems. We've talked a lot about funding and how actually it's quite inaccessible for some community partners, and that hasn't been challenged and it's been just the way that it is. But actually the makeup of the partners we've got around the room, some have got a bit more of a regional focus down to very locally based organisations. It's really nice to kind of capture some of that understanding and some from different sectors as well, and how we can kind of maybe utilise some of that learning and use it as we kind of go forward in some of this work. So we keep talking about opportunities. So in its a physical activity project or a programme. So where has that been thought up? Who's bringing that to the area, and how are they trying to land it in a place? So who have they consulted with? Has it actually been co-produced? Have there been voices from that community? Have we actually said, this is what's going to happen to you, like it or lump it, here it comes, and do you want to turn up on Thursday at 10 o'clock? And just understanding that, these things potentially happen a lot to some communities, especially those areas that we know in South Bristol that have always come up as the red areas, so to speak, and that lots of initiatives or things try to land in those areas, and people wonder why they don't necessarily sustain, and people just feel kind of bulldozed over continuously. So there's definitely some takeaways, I think, in terms of trying to take a bit of pause and checking that things are actually wanted, needed, and are actually going to be valuable to kind of community partners before trying to just suggest they happen.
So we're definitely on a journey, and we're definitely moving through a process. But I think what we've got in terms of our ways of working is a real commitment to that, and a real commitment to going on to achieve more and work harder for the communities in which we serve.